Good morning, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of the Getulio Vargas Foundation, I would like to thank everyone who signed up to participate in this webinar. Today, we begin to present a series of webinars that will take place throughout this year called Focus on Asia. This project will map, debate, and explain why Asia is ever increasingly the main global geoeconomic axis. Focus on Asia will draw the attention of several national audiences to relevant issues and countries. Webinars on the most relevant Asian countries for Brazil. The project will amplify global discussions, bringing FGV closer to other international think tanks, thus expanding the exchange of knowledge between Brazil and more distant regions. FGV is ranked as the third best think tank in the world, the most well-managed in the world, and for 12 consecutive years, the best in Latin America. All statements expressed by Getulio Vargas Foundation, employees and guests in our online events and broadcasts exclusively represent their opinions and not necessarily FGV's institutional position. We also reiterate that everyone present here agreed to participate in this event of their own free will be they consented to be recorded in this broadcast, which will be posted later on FGV's official channels. Now, I would like to thank you very much for the presence of the Honorable Ambassador of Indonesia, Ed Yusup. Ed Yusup is the Ambassador of Indonesia in Brazil. He was Director for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Ambassador Permanent Representative in a Permanent Mission of Indonesia to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, Consul General of the Indonesia in Guangzhou, Director for Asian Economic Cooperation, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Official for Economic Affairs, Permanent Mission of the Indonesia to the United Nations, and other international organizations in Geneva. Deputy Director for Information Technology, Agriculture, Environment, and Development Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. And Professor Renato Flores is the director of the FGV International Intelligence Unit and professor in the Graduate School of Economics, also at FGV. At present, he works mostly in the areas of geopolitics and international political economy, with a special interest on Asia and the future of globalization and international cooperation. He has written many papers and reports on his themes of interest, and he's the author of the forthcoming book, The Road Corona Changed, US, China, and Middle Power in the New International Order, to be published by Untitled in London. Professor Flores, would you like to share with us a few words about the project, please?
With a great pleasure. Good morning to everybody. I hope we have thousands of people watching us. My best regards and very good morning to my great friend, the Honorable Ambassador Yusup from this, I like to say sister country. I think it's nicer than brother country, from our sister country, Indonesia. It is with enormous pleasure that we start this series of about 10 to 12 webinars, Ambassador, we are going to have during this year, each seminar focusing on a specific Asia country, but I insisted to start our series of seminars with Indonesia. And why? Because if you take the multiplicity of the Asian continent, Indonesia is perhaps the nation which is closer to us, and in my view, my personal view, the country with which we could establish the most profitable, equitable, and balanced agreements. I trust that the ambassador knows this. I've been working with Indonesia for more than 10 years, I would say perhaps for 15 years, and I've never been disappointed and I've never changed my mind. I think that Indonesia is our partner. It's the partner of Brazil. Of course, you have giants in Asia. You have China, you have India, you have very interesting countries as well. But Indonesia is a project which intends ultimately to bring Asia to Brazilian decision makers. And we start with Indonesia. As I said, it's a great pleasure. Thank you very much, Ambassador. And to start work, we were chatting before the seminar, and I was kidding with the ambassador, are you prepared for the test? Because FGV is known as a very serious school, so everybody comes and has to answer questions, Ambassador. I apologize. So I posed the first question, Ambassador. I would like to hear your views about the following thing. You've been here for, if I'm not mistaken, maybe more than 2 years, no? You knew the country already, and now you know better the country. You are enduring together with us a crisis. So my question is the following. First, how does Indonesia perceive Brazil? What is the gestalt, if we could say the German word, what is the idea that Indonesia has of Brazil? And given this idea, and now given your experience in the country, given your present knowledge of Brazilian society, Brazilian economy, Brazilian dynamics, which is not trivial at all, like Indonesia, also it's a complex country. So given this perception and given your knowledge, what would be your ideas to strengthen, to put our minds, our countries closer? So that's my first question to you, my dear friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Renato. Very encouraging and very pleased to hear your views about Indonesia. And I fully agree with you that Indonesia and Brazil actually is a giant country. I think many institutions predicted that in 2045, Indonesia and Brazil will become the 5th largest and the 6th largest economy in the world. So I think we have to know that fact, that it is a giant economy. But I think in the process of reforming, I believe that if we continue to do reform in economic reform and bureaucratic reform, I'm sure that we can achieve that target to become the top 5 and top 6 giant economy in the world. So come back to your question, Ambassador Renato, Professor Renato. When I arrived in Brazil, I just realized that remind me the visit of President Sukarno, the first president to visit Brasilia in 1959. So he had a long vision that Brazil will become a giant economy in the future. That's why I think President Sukarno was the first leader to visit Brasilia from Asia Pacific. So now I realize that there are a lot of potential that we can work together. When you ask me about ideas, how we can strengthen the cooperation, I have so many ideas. So it may take I may discuss quite long in this topic, because I really want that Indonesia and Brazil continue to strengthen in many aspects of the cooperation. But before I begin, to answer your question, allow me to express appreciation to Professor Renato, Mariana, and Veneza, particularly to FGV, for organizing this forum, because this is very important to have more dialogues, not only at G2G level, B2B, but also at people-to-people contact. So again, I just would like to mention to everyone that Professor Renato is not only Indonesian best friend, but he is my mentor in economic and trade issue.
Oh.
Secondly, as one of the most influential think tanks in Brazil and in the world, I'm very honored and very pleased to join this discussion. And it is my sincere hope that this event will stimulate further dialogue and closer collaboration between Indonesia and Brazil. Professor Renato, as of today, both countries are still battling with the COVID-19 pandemic. And worse, the pandemic unfolds at the back of increasingly uncertain global situation. The IMF predicted that escalation in geopolitical tension could pose a threat to our global value chains, create major economic risks, and in turn reduce global growth. So again, this backdrop, I do agree with you that there's no other option. We have to strengthen our collaboration and cooperation, and we have to recover together, because during the pandemic, I think our economy has experienced a negative growth. So I think we have to recover together. And I think there's no choice. We have to adapt to new approaches and create the breakthrough. In this regard, Professor Renato, I just would like to propose 3 approaches or ideas how we can strengthen the cooperation between Indonesia and Brazil. First, is definitely we need more dialogues,
Yes.
both at G2G, B2B, and people-to-people contact. I think through digital platform that we are doing now, I believe that we can have more dialogues at various levels.
Yes.
The second approach to me is to create more opportunities. And Indonesia stands ready to establish new trade agreements with Brazil, or under the umbrella of Indonesia-Mercosur Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Professor Renato, you may recall our meeting in early 2019. After
Yes.
2 months, I arrived in Brazil. I visited you in Rio to
Yes.
seek your views and advice on the possibility to establish a comprehensive partnership, economic partnership agreement with Brazil or Mercosur. And now I'm happy to inform you that we have conducted 2 meetings or exploratory meetings of Indonesia-Mercosur CEPA in 2019 and 2020 in Brasilia. And Indonesia is ready to host the 3rd meeting and hope that the negotiation of Indonesia-Mercosur Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement can be started this year. That's my really hope, and it's my dream. Thanks for your advice, Professor Renato. Finally, achieve our dream. And hopefully this can be finalized as soon as possible. Because Indonesia has been conducted FTA with so many countries now. We are having more than 20 countries on FTA negotiation, and I hope that Brazil can support us to accelerate the negotiation on Indonesia-Mercosur Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. The 3rd approach, Professor Renato, I think we must discover new opportunities. I found that digital economy, green economy, strategic industry, and defense industry can be one of the areas that we could further develop. We could explore cooperation. So those are the ideas that I'm now trying to work together with Itamaraty and other related ministries in Brazil. So hopefully with your support, we can achieve this kind of targets in the future.
Ambassador, Focus on Asia project.
Could I just, Mariana, could I just interrupt you and add a few words to the answer by Ambassador? I'm sorry. Ambassador, just a few comments on your very interesting answer. First of all, a historical point. You mentioned President Sukarno, and I think you know quite well that President Juscelino Kubitschek and President Sukarno, they were great friends. And when President Kubitschek, who is responsible for making Brasilia, a modern capital of the country, and there was the area for the embassies. And President Kubitschek reserved a very special area for Indonesia. This story was told me by someone who was a witness to this, an old ambassador, an old Indonesian ambassador. And so he gave this area. I think there was a kind of event. President Sukarno just launched the founding stone, but there was a timeline for building up the embassy. I don't remember why, but there was a timeline, and it had to be completed by, I don't know, a certain day, 1 year or 2 years after. And it was very tight. So the Indonesians were telling me that it was very hard. And near to the end of the deadline, when they were close to the deadline, I think Sukarno called Kubitschek and said, look, we are going to have something like a 2 or 3 months delay. And Kubitschek said, oh, no problem. The deadline was notional and all that. But so there's this funny story, which I think that's very nice, because at that time, they were great friends. We need this. So President Sukarno and President Kubitschek, they were really great friends. And this is what we would like to achieve with this project, with this first interview. Your suggestions, just a brief comment, because I know that Mariana has a lot of questions to pose. The idea of dialogue, of more dialogue, this is exactly what we intend to do. And after this debate, one thing that we must develop and intend to develop in the project is to go deeper, because, okay, this is an opening ceremony, but go deeper and with your help, with the help of the embassy, to identify specific speakers and specific sectors so that we can have follow-ups on specific themes with counterparts in Indonesia. So from our side, count on us. What we could help in this, please do call us. So if you have ideas and say, well, FGWU, could you organize a webinar with a head of, I don't know, the Poverty Alleviation Department and discuss, exchange views with Brazilian experts? Will help you in this. So this is very important. Secondly, I would like to state my joy with the good news you have just given, namely that interaction with Mercosur is going on, and a free trade agreement between Indonesia and Mercosur, as far as I understood, can be a reality this year, as you said.
Yes.
I think this is very important because this not only boosts trade between Indonesia and Mercosur, and also because it's another point that probably we are going to discuss along the debate, that Indonesia, to me, and I hope that the ambassador agrees, is also a door, as I mentioned, to Asia. Indonesia is a door to ASEAN. Yes, so yes. Once we have, I think would agree. Once we have a free trade agreement, once Mercosur has a free trade agreement with Indonesia, it will be much easier to fix one with Thailand, to fix one with Vietnam, and so on. So Indonesia also plays this role strategically, in my view, and that's very, very good news. As regards new opportunities, you mentioned green economy. We know that because of the new US presidency, everybody's talking about green economy. I think there will be room for action in green economy, but we share other interests. I think that also this will be asked and debated today. For instance, in tourism, we share similar natural beauties in terms of resources. So I think we could also, there could be a room for scope for expansion in terms of tourism and other kinds of things. Gas and oil, you are an oil exporter, we are an oil exporter. You are a mining country, we are a mining country. You have the experience of Vale. Vale had, I'm afraid, had a greater presence, now has a smaller presence in Indonesia. But there are sectors also that we should discuss and exploit. So I think this is a very good opening. And please, I pass the floor to Mariana, please.
Thank you, Professor. Ambassador, Focus on Asia project will draw the attention of several national audiences to relevant issues and countries, providing a comprehensive view of the multiple opportunities, problems and differences in the Asian world. What are the ways to deepen relations between Indonesia and Brazil?
Thank you, Mariana. As I said earlier, that at least there are two ways to deepen and broaden the cooperation. One is to have more dialogue. I think at the moment between Indonesia and Brazil, we have established the working group on trade and investment, and the other one we have established the consultative committee on agriculture cooperation. So I think we can utilize, reactivate these two mechanisms to have more dialogue in a specific aspect related to economic and agricultural cooperation. The second one is to create more opportunities by establishing the Indonesia-Mercosur Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Indonesia prefer to have a comprehensive economic partnership agreement because we would like to also promote investment. Because I think we should go beyond trade. If we just focus on trade under the current pandemic, I think it will be very difficult. So I think we have to bring more investment together to enhance trade cooperation. And the third one is actually to have new opportunities in the green economy, in digital economy, as well as in the strategic industry. Also mining, because I think as Professor Renato mentioned, that Vale has been investing in Indonesia quite some time, and I think Vale is increasing its investment, and they are also participating in the development of the battery lithium in Indonesia. So hopefully that in mining, in innovation technology, we can work together. So those are the elements that we can strengthen cooperation between the two countries.
Okay. Diplomatic relations between Brazil and Indonesia were established in 1953. Since 2008, the two countries have maintained a strategic partnership. What is the importance of the current context of Asian multilateralism of maintaining joint, deep bilateral cooperation with Brazil?
For us, Brazil is an important strategic partner in cooperation and development in Latin America. And I think likewise, Indonesia also is an important strategic partner for Brazil in cooperation and development with Asia. So within this context, of course, Indonesia will continue to deepen, to broaden economic and trade cooperation with Brazil. And I believe this is also the right time for Brazil to engage more with countries in Southeast Asia, because when you look at Indonesia, you have to look at Southeast Asia with 10 countries with 600 million people. And you have to look also Indonesia as part of the RCEP members, which actually represent 2.2 billion market and 30% of the world trade. So I think that this is, the right time for Brazil to engage more with Southeast Asia.
All right. We have a large and unprecedented trade agreement between 15 Asian countries. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership has been recently signed. On what areas in the Asian continent, geopolitical and economic relations in particular, will it have the greatest impact?
Oh, very, very tough questions.
Yeah.
One aspect actually is more related to the rules of ASEAN. This is the ASEAN-driven regional economic partnership. So I think it shows that ASEAN still play an important role in developing regional cooperation with other regions. The second, as I said earlier, that the RCEP covers a market of more than 2.2 billion people, with a combined GDP of 26 trillion US dollar, so almost 30% of GDP of the world. Indonesia export value to RCEP members in 2019 was around 95 billion US dollar, or accounted for almost 60% of Indonesia's total export to the world. So RCEP certainly will deepen and broaden trade and investment relations, mainly through reduction of tariff and non-tariff barriers in trade and goods services. It will also harmonize the provision imposed by countries in the trade in goods, providing more certainty for traders and investors. Just for your information, that it is estimated that RCEP will boost Indonesia's export by 7.2%, and RCEP also will generate welfare gain around 1.52 billion US dollar for Indonesia. So those are the impacts of the RCEP for Indonesia and for Southeast Asia.
But so my point was this. Regarding China, could Indonesia play a role in a triangle between Brazil, China, and Indonesia? Could Indonesia help us somehow, of course, being also interesting for the country in our relationship with China? This is my first question. Of course, you can say, no, Professor, there's no interest. This makes no sense at all. The second question regards Australia. Australia is, as I said, a competitor, a friendly competitor, is a very interesting country. What they do very well. Unfortunately, they have interests in the same market that we have. How do you see the relationship now inside Indonesia between Australia and Brazil? Of course, I know I'm talking to an ambassador, and I know that you must speak like an ambassador. But if possible, would you perhaps give us clues on what we could do, or you think that the competition is healthy? Competition is always, in principle, healthy, and maybe there would be niches for Brazil, which Australia can supply. But for instance, we know that at present there is a trade war, not exactly a trade war, but China is playing hard with Australia because of certain political developments, and they raise the tariffs, and a few Australian sectors, like the wine sector, is suffering desperately. So will Australia then shift exports, especially because Australia is in RC, to ASEAN countries, notably Indonesia, and this can damage some markets where we compete. So my second question is, could you elaborate? Of course, I understand your position, and I understand how delicate is this issue. Could you elaborate a bit on the Brazilian-Australian relation with Indonesia? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Renato. This is a very tough question. I'm not sure that I can really answer this. But let me begin with the Australia first, before we relate to China. Indonesia has been a growing market for Australia. It is a fact, and become the 13th largest trading partner of Australia.
Yeah.
As Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement has been entered into force since last year, so the trade relations, including in specific products, will continue to grow. Certainly will continue to grow. So in this regard, for Brazil, there's no choice. You have to be more aggressive. As Indonesia start opening market to Brazil and beef, I think Brazil should use this opportunity to offer more competitive and better services. And I'm sure that, and also we should go beyond trade only, because I think there's also ample opportunities for Brazilians to invest in agriculture sector in Indonesia. And by doing that, I'm sure that we can work together. And I think we have to look at the broader perspective. And I can imagine if Indonesia and Brazil can work together, have a joint investment in agriculture sectors, in the cattle industry, then the market is not only for to Indonesia, but I mean, those companies can export to other countries, like to RCEP member countries. So I think we have to look at the bright side of the condition. So let's use that opportunity when they are in the trade war situation. I think we have to use that opportunity to invest, to work together, to develop cattle and agriculture industry in Indonesia. With regard to China, I think for Indonesia, I think similar to Brazil, China is the main trading partner of Indonesia. Our trade with China is around $100 billion. I think similar also with Brazil. So there's no choice. We have to work together with China. We cannot compete with China. I think we have to work together with China. That's the only. That's why, you know, in the concept of the what we call it, the Pacific region, we are trying to promote the inclusive cooperation. I mean, we can have the dialogue with many countries, but without China, it will be very difficult, because China, whether we like it or not, is a giant and has played an important role in the Asia-Pacific economy. So I think in any way, there's no choice. We have to include China in any kind of cooperation that we are building.
Yes.
So that's my suggestion to Brazil. So I think there's no choice. But what we can do, we should diversify our country destination, not only focus on China, but also to Southeast Asia. That's why President Joko Widodo has actually underlined the importance of engaging more with the non-traditional market. And starting last year, the Indonesian government has established what we call it the Indonesia Latin American Caribbean Business Forum, which is going to be organized every year. So we have done twice, 2019 and 2020. 2020, we conducted virtually because of the pandemic. And luckily, in that situation, we were able to build what we call it Indonesia Latin American Caribbean Business Digital Forum, a digital platform. So to showcase our products, to seek investment opportunities, and to update business activities in both regions. And I'm very pleased to inform you that Brazil has been participated actively in this digital platform. And last year, I have been able to organize more than 10 business-to-business meetings, discussing on trade cooperation in certain products. So hopefully they can finalize the agreement to do trading in certain products, particularly in the food and beverage products. So I think through digital, we have to institutionalize this digital platform. And I'm sure that more business-to-business meeting can be arranged under this framework. That's maybe what can I say, Professor Renato.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ambassador, between Brazil and Indonesia, understandings are taking place in the areas of agriculture, banks, education, energy, and mining, in addition to poverty eradication and promotion of trade and investment. The two countries have bilateral dialogue mechanisms in the areas of agriculture, trade, and investment. What is the relevance of this partnership?
I think the mechanism, as you mentioned, bilateral mechanism in agriculture and trade and investment, in my view, still relevant and can serve as a platform to address some challenging issues technically and to explore new opportunities in that respective areas of cooperation. And actually, Indonesia has proposed to Brazil to reactivate and re-energize this two working group. And I believe that we can conduct the meeting virtually at the initial stage because I think these two committees has been dormant for more than 7 years. And I just would like to tell you that we have also mechanism at the Itamaraty level, what we call it a political consultation. But we haven't done this political consultation for almost also 7 years. Through Zoom facilities, luckily last year we could organize the political consultations. And at that political consultation, both countries agreed to reinvigorate the strategic partnership. And among others is to establish Indonesia-Mercosur Free Trade Agreement. So those are the new opportunities that we can create by having more dialogue. So I'm sure that these two mechanisms are still relevant and Indonesia is ready to have this meeting. Initially, we can do it virtually.
Okay, perfect. According to the Ministry of Economy in Brazil, the pandemic has strengthened trade between Brazil and Asia. Almost half of Brazil's exports went to your continent last year. This shows that an affinity has grown in the last 20 years, but the inclusion of China greatly distorts the picture. How can we bring Indonesia closer to Brazil? Can it play a role in the China-Brazil relations?
This is similar to what Professor Renato mentioned, but I just would like to add maybe a little bit. So related
Ambassador has mentioned this. Yeah, please, Ambassador.
But just would like to add some. What I learned from the pandemic situation that through digital platform, the business-to-business can still grow. And I have mentioned earlier that during for the last 2 months, I have been able to organize more than 13 business-to-business meetings. And I saw the interest of both businessmen to do business more. So I'm sure that we can have more business in the future. And I saw also the opportunities to have investment cooperation from both sides. So I believe that by having more dialogue, more context, we can have more trade with Brazil. So as I said earlier, I think we should try to diversify our country's destination, not only focus on China, because under the pandemic situation, it is clear to us that we should not depends on one country. We should diversify our country's destination. So I think the pandemic gave us a great lesson for us to diversify our cooperation.
During the pandemic, most countries have chosen to protect the elderly and health professionals first. But Indonesia has adopted a strategy that prioritized workers between the ages of 18 and 59. Is this decision to vaccinate younger people first because they circulate more is a way to contain the greatest spread? How do you analyze this decision?
Very interesting questions. Allow me to clarify. Actually, Indonesia is like Brazil. We prioritize the health professionals, not only health professional in the public hospital, but also in the private hospital. Besides health professionals, Indonesia also has put workers between 18 years old to 59 years old in the group of priority. Why? Because 70% of Indonesian population are in that age range. So, and unlike in Brazil, in some countries in Europe, most of elderly in Indonesia live with their children and their grandchildren. So, and most of young workers in Indonesia are commuters using public transportation.
Yeah.
So they are prone to COVID-19 pandemic, and when they come home, they can pose their families, including elderly at risk. So that's why we focus more on the young or age, particularly between 18 to 59, because 70% of the population in that range.
Okay, thank you. Indonesia is the largest economy among the 10 members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. 3 years ago, the country was Brazil's 11th trading partner in Asia, with an exchange exceeding almost $3 billion, half related to Brazilian exports. But then the situation got worse. What are the prospects for the coming years after the pandemic? Will Australia, a Brazilian competitor in specific markets in Indonesia, become an even more aggressive rival, given its current trade problems with China?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier to Professor Renato that for Australia, Indonesia is the growing market and is the main trading partner. So they will continue to be more aggressive. And because of the implementation of the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, I'm sure that the trade will continue to grow. But I'm sure that if we are able to accelerate the Indonesia-Mercosur Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, I'm sure also that Brazil will be more competitive in the future, because I think I hope that in the agreements later should also cover investment cooperation. So we should go beyond a trade, but also investment cooperation. Then there is a possibility for both countries to enhance cooperation in the investment sector. So I think by doing that, hopefully that Indonesia and Brazil can grow more, because $3.2 billion in trade with Brazil in 2020, to me, is too small. I think as a middle country, we should double the figure at least to arrive at $5 billion in the near future. That's my dream, and I hope that we can do it by having more dialogues and creating more opportunities and come up with the new economic cooperation in green economy, digital economy, also as well as in mining. I'm sure that we can have more than $5 billion.
Okay, Ambassador. Indonesia should continue its process of globalization and integration with the world economy to ensure benefits and to move forward in its structural transformation, while managing the costs of globalization and its transition process. What is your assessment of this process?
To me, this is the right direction because Indonesia will continue to pursue its economic reforms to further improve Indonesia's investment climate. Just for your information, last year, the government of Indonesia has enacted Omnibus Law. Omnibus Law is an umbrella law which aims to synchronize and to improve Indonesia business and investment climate by reforming 79 different laws associated with multiple areas of Indonesian economy. So with Omnibus Law, hopes we can enhance our ease of doing business in Indonesia. So those are the new reform that we are conducting. And just to be frank with you, it was a very painful process. The government has to do a lot of socialization, dissemination with the public because there are a lot of debate on the benefit and the consequences of this new omnibus laws. But I think this is a good achievement because we synchronize 79 laws that are contradicting each other. So by having omnibus law, we hopefully can bring more investment from abroad.
Right. What are the Indonesian key interests as regards Brazil?
As I said earlier, Brazil is an important player and very strategic partner. I think we have been a very good cooperation in various international fora, including G20 and WTO. Of course, Indonesia wishes to enhance that relation with Brazil, but in more sustainable, in more balanced manner. Because just for information, Indonesia has a big deficit with Brazil for, I think, about 1 billion from 3.2 billion. So almost 30% we got deficit with Brazil. So I think this is not a healthy development, although I'm happy that the trade is increasing, but the trade deficit for Indonesia is bigger and bigger. So I think we have to try to make the trade relation more balanced. Then we can sustain the trade cooperation. In this regard, I would like to highlight that Indonesia would like to have more access market in palm oil, in rubber, coconut, and cacao. And we would like also to have access market for fishery products, including to have the possibility of possible cooperation in the sector with Brazil. And I said earlier that we could also explore cooperation in digital economy because, as you are aware, that Indonesia is the fastest growing and the largest digital economy in Southeast Asia, with a predicted value of 133 billion. And I saw that Brazil also is experiencing a rapid progress in digital connectivity. So I think there is a big opportunity for both countries to enhance cooperation in this area. Let me also touch upon on the green economy. As you are aware that we are a leading country in developing biofuels using soybeans and also biodiesel using biofuel using sugar plantation. And Indonesia is developing a biofuel, particularly biodiesel, using the palm oil. So I think both countries have to work together to provide the world with a clean and more affordable energy. And I think this is one of the good examples for both countries to work together. I think it's timely for Indonesia and Brazil to take a lead in this project bringing people in the world get more affordable and clean energy, achieving the sustainable development goals. So those are the interests of Indonesia with Brazil. And as I said earlier, of course, we are also interested to enhance cooperation in mining and technology innovation, because I learned from Brazil that Brazil is now developing graphene. I don't know whether you are familiar with graphene. And I think Indonesia also is interested to work together, because I found that one institution in Rio, I forgot the name, they developed a graphene using the shrimp, what we call it, and we have a lot of shrimp, so we can work together to develop that kind of graphene.
From the skin of the shrimp?
Those are the new areas that we can work together.
Okay, Ambassador, could Brazil play a role in helping Indonesian interests in South America?
As the biggest economy in South America, I think Brazil can serve as the main gate for Indonesia to enter the market in South America. And of course, Indonesia needs Brazil's support to encourage other Mercosur members in accelerating the process of Indonesia Mercosur Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement as early as possible, so we can work together to enhance trade cooperation with so many countries in South America. That's maybe what I can answer.
Okay. Could I, Mariana, could I say a word? Well, I'm afraid, Ambassador, that we are exploiting you too much. Maybe if Mariana agrees,
Yes.
we could stop the questions now and see, I don't know, if there is any question from outside to the ambassador. Mariana, could you see to it?
We don't have.
No, we don't have?
No answers.
Okay. So, Ambassador, would you like to add something, to say something else? Because I think it's been, you've delivered a lot of very precious information. I've taken notes as a professor, and I hope that this is a start, because you put forward a few interesting ideas that we, as I said before, we could either help you in the progress, or we could also participate in some of them. So I think that I'm afraid we are going to have a further chat by telephone or email, because you raised a few interesting ideas, which I think we could engage somehow in some of them. So would you like to say something else before we conclude, or if a question arrives? But if not, I'm afraid that we could conclude.
Professor Renato, if you allow me, I just would like to once again thank you very much for the excellent opportunities. This stimulates me to think more and how we can improve our cooperation. And I would like to agree with your suggestion that we should have another meeting with more specific issues. And I'm thinking maybe we can have another specific meeting on, let's say, green economy, on how we can work on the development of biofuels, particularly biodiesel and biofuels. So I'll try to get in touch with my colleague in Jakarta who are expert in this area. And with your help, I hope that we can have another meeting specifically on certain topics. Later, maybe we can have on the digital economy, and also, if possible, in tourism cooperation, and creative economy. So those three areas that I'm considering now to be a priority for the next meeting. So once again, it is really useful and very helpful, and I'm really appreciate for your initiative, and I hope that we can continue to have more dialogues. Thank you, Renato. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you.
Closing. Great pleasure for me.
Ambassador, thank you very much. I think you've left food for thought, because I think the idea of the green economy, digital platforms, digital complex and inclusion, they all have plenty of ideas and things to discuss. Regarding biofuels, I would only like to add something. There was an attempt, I think, about 5 or 3 years ago, to develop something together with biofuels, because you have the palm oil, as you mentioned. But I remember there was a problem of certification, or something. This was a bit of a non-trade barrier that the US was posing, that they wanted a kind of certification for the biofuels, and we were fighting to have a kind of joint certification for all the producers of biofuels, like Indonesia, Brazil. You have also in Central America countries engaged in biofuels. But being very frank, I don't know how this went on. So maybe we could also recover the state of the art regarding biofuels, because we could do something on this. That's true. Well, Ambassador, enormous pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nelato.
I hope to receive you in Rio still this year, so that we can have a wonderful lunch as our last one, and lots of good health, lots of luck, and let us continue your work. You've been very kind, very enlightening, and very helpful. That's exactly the idea of the project. Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Renato.
Thank you.
And Mariana, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Closing this first webinar on Indonesia of the Focus on Asia project. We cover a comprehensive economic, geopolitical, and panorama with analysis of the differences and opportunities of a continent that is extremely important for our country, with our intention to bring Brazil closer to Indonesia and to the whole of Asia in all spheres. I would like to thank the presence of the Ambassador Eddie Zup, who had a brilliant participation in this project, as well as Professor Flores, who honored his participation as a great scholar from Asia and other continents. Thank you all. And next month, we have a webinar with Vietnam. Follow through FGV's communication channels. Thank you for your participation, and see you soon. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you too.
Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you.